All right, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome Eric Cole into the interview room here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. Eric is coming off a runner-up at the Honda Classic last week. Eric, if we could just get a comment from you on the emotions in the 48 hours following that dramatic playoff with Chris.
Yeah, no, it's been kind of a whirlwind. Got up here and played the Pro-Am yesterday, but it was a great experience last week, and this is a tournament I've always wanted to play, so I'm excited to be here and can't wait for Thursday to get here.
You mentioned to me on the way in that this is a place that you've practiced at from the time you were 14 or so. Could you provide some background on that? And also, I think you had caddied for Sam Saunders here. We had Sam call into the telecast last week, which was cool. So just a little background on your familiarity with the course and caddying for Sam.
Yeah, sure. My mom got remarried, and he was a member here, so I was lucky enough to start practicing and playing out of here when I was probably 14-ish. And, you know, it was a great place to grow up, and obviously met Sam and played a ton of rounds with him around here. And, you know, it's just really special times and great memories. And, you know, I'm obviously I caddied for him in this tournament maybe twice. Most recently, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you know, it's a special place to me.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. If you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. Questions? All right, we got one right here on the right.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. Can you just sort of Cliff Notes version of the journey? 34 years old now, rookie on the tour, just to get where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure. So I turned pro in 2010-ish. I'm not really sure exactly what year it was, but played a lot of mini tour golf and went to Q school most of those years and just couldn't get through and just kind of kept sticking it out and grinding and got Korn Ferry status in 2016 or 17, and then had a back injury, and then had to wait for that to heal, and started teaching down in South Florida at a club called Abacoa. Once that was better, I was kind of like, all right, I kind of want to give it another go, and went back to Q school, got on Korn Ferry, and played a couple years out there, and got my card to come out here last fall.
Edgar?
Yeah, more from the Orlando Sentinel. Edgar Thompson here. Nice to meet you.
Hey, how's it going?
So the minor league golf tour has some pretty legit players on there, but it's like these one-day events, and you know, guys can go really low. But how do you kind of does that translate to like 72 holes event? I mean, the transition, is it tough to make for a lot of guys going from that 1 or 2 days to
yeah, I'd
longer
say
term?
it's slightly different. Your attitude's a little different. Just because being a one-day tournament, you know, you kind of have to play well that day. But I think it's good prep because when you play a lot of one-day tournaments, like, you have a chance to win a lot of tournaments. So, you know, even though it's only one day on the back nine, you get the feeling of, you know, if I birdie 3 of these last 5 holes, then, you know, I'll win this tournament today. And I think that's a good mindset to just kind of have, whether you're playing 4-day tournaments or one. And you also get, you know, like it might not be quite like the nerves I felt on Sunday, but, you know, you still get a little nervous and you still want to win and beat the people you're playing against.
Oh, for sure. I mean, a lot of it very explosive players. It was just, you know, then taking it into this environment. What are some of the big challenges there? I mean, with the crowds and the course challenges and setups.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different atmosphere. It's a really cool atmosphere. I thought it was awesome, but it's definitely different than playing an 18-hole minor league event in a cart, so that's a little different. But, you know, the courses on tour are quite a bit tougher. You know, like, we would play some mini-tour events at the Champ, and, you know, it's still a really tough test. There's still trouble, but the greens aren't as firm. They're not quite as fast. And even the Korn Ferry Tour, you see a little bit of that, where the course setups are just a little bit easier. So especially when you get to the weekend on the PGA Tour, everything's just kind of heightened, and I think it's a really good thing. It brings out, kind of brings the people who are playing the best. It puts them like they can separate themselves from other guys.
Another one on the right there, on the aisle.
Yeah, Eric, what was kind of the biggest or the best, say, text or email that you may have gotten in the last 48 or 72 hours from somebody?
That's a good question. I got a lot of texts, but a lot of them were from old friends and stuff that I hadn't talked to in a while, so it was kind of cool to hear from them that, even though I haven't stayed in great touch with them, they still have been following me, and it's just really cool to have that, background support. Whether I knew it at the time or not, it's kind of nice to, hear from them.
Making such a splash over the weekend, do you ever get the feeling that you're an overnight sensation 10 years in the making?
I don't know about that, but it's something that, I'm excited about it. It's a cool experience for me. Doing a press conference is something I've never really done before. So it's one of those things where if you play really good golf, this is kind of the stuff that comes with it. And I like playing really good golf, so I like this stuff too.
Another question on the right there.
Congrats on such a great week last week, Eric.
Thank you.
Can you pinpoint perhaps something you learned the most after your experiences last week?
That's a good question. I'd say I probably learned that, you don't really have to play perfect golf to have a chance to win. I think I already knew that, but, the front nine on Sunday, I really didn't hit it well there for a few hole stretch, and, I hung in there, and to have a chance to win when I wasn't playing my best was pretty cool, and it was just a good, first-hand experience of what people say where, you don't have to play perfect golf to win, and to kind of experience that was really neat.
Gary?
Hey, Eric, all those years on the mini tours, how many of those years were you making a profit on that, or did you have some years where you lost money? I mean, just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I tended to be one of the better mini tour players. So as far as entry fees and getting it back, I pretty much profited every year from that. But there's a lot of other expenses when you're driving around and stuff like that. So if you include that stuff, I'd say there's probably a couple break-even years in there for sure, where it's really tough to pay all your bills at home and stuff. So. But I've been really lucky. I've, had people help me out from, country club that I practice at to Cuesta and, other individuals. So it's one of those things where you need a little bit of help and a little bit of luck to get to the PGA Tour in my case.
How complicated were those tax returns with all those itemized deductions?
Yeah, it's not easy. The guy that does my tax, he's a friend of mine, Neil Reinheimer. He and I don't do a great job categorizing it, so he's got a tough task every March.
What was your biggest paycheck on outside of Corn Ferry? What was your biggest check? The Frank Fuhrer?
Yeah, that would probably be it. It's a section event run by the Tri-State, where that's a great event for a mini tour player. There's a bunch of added money that Mr. Fuhrer put into that purse, so that would definitely be it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And then the last question for Matt. Oh,
Eric,
sorry.
you talked a little bit about the struggles with injury and some of the things you went through on the process to get to this point. I'm wondering, was there ever a point that you considered giving up the game of professional golf?
Yeah, I'd say there were a few points where I thought about it. I caddied for Sam Saunders for probably 6 months at one point and didn't really play a lot. And then the back injury, I was kind of giving lessons and teaching, and it definitely crossed my mind that, this isn't the end of the world and I could, teach golf. That's something that I didn't mind doing. I kind of enjoyed it, especially younger juniors and stuff. I got a lot of thrill out of that. And I think that might have helped my game a little bit to say, golf isn't the most important thing. If I don't end up being some great golfer, that's not the end of the world. Life still goes on. So I've definitely considered it a few times, but I'm glad I stuck it out.
And quickly from Kevin Price, your friend Brad Adamanis holed out on 18 yesterday to qualify for his first ever
Did he
Champs
really?
Tour event. Yeah, I just
Awesome.
wanted your reaction and your thoughts on him being on Champs Tour.
No, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Brad's a great guy, and we played a lot of mini tour golf together, and that's exciting to hear. And I hope he does really well in the Champions Tour, they got to look out for him for sure.
Edgar?
Yeah, what's been the influence of your parents on your career?
It's been big. I, was always around them, going to their tournaments and stuff from a young age. So I kind of saw what they did and thought, that was something I wanted to do. And, I've leaned on them for advice, whether it's, golf course stuff or off the golf course stuff, travel or, where to play, what to do. So I've leaned on them a lot, and, they've both been an inspiration to me about, how I kind of want to pursue this as my career.
And you've been coming to this course for 20 years, it sounds like, off and on. How much tougher has it gotten?
It's definitely gotten tougher. It's so firm and so fast by Saturday and Sunday in recent years. But I think if you look at the list of champions, it's a really, really hard test, but it seems to bring the people who are playing the best to the top of the leaderboard, and I think that's something that all the greatest courses and greatest tournaments in the world tend to do. And I think although it's really tough, it's overall a really good thing.
In the front here on the right?
Yeah, Eric, what do you remember from those days playing West Orange Country Club? I guess you were playing it every day, and just how that molded you into the golfer you are.
Yeah, sure. Before I started practicing out here when I was 14, from probably 10 to 14, my mom got me a junior membership at West Orange Country Club, and I spent pretty much all day, every day out there in the summers especially, and there were a lot of pros that practiced out there too. Dean Pappas and a bunch of other guys, so we had a lot of really good games, and it kind of taught me a little bit of hard work and grinding it out and stuff like that. I think a lot of those attributes that I might have, I probably got from being around West Orange at a young age.
Jeff?
And going back to this course, you've played this course hundreds of times, maybe even more. But what is perhaps the biggest difference from your caddying days for Sam? What's the biggest difference in this course between any other week of the year and the first week of March?
You're saying the difference between when I was playing it growing up versus the tournament week?
Tournament week.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So the greens are obviously a lot firmer, but the biggest difference for me is the rough is higher too, but the fairways are so much firmer. So when we were kids, one, you're a kid, so you just hit driver on every hole, and two, it's just the ball doesn't roll like it does in the tournament, so it wasn't even an option. Every hole was a driver. It was just, a foregone conclusion. And then by the time the tournament rolls around, and especially the weekend, seeing it caddying for Sam and watching it on TV and stuff, those shots that are just automatic drivers turn into, like 5 woods and 4 irons because the ball is running 30 and 40 yards on the fairways. So that's probably the biggest difference. But, it's a great course, and it was always in good shape when we were growing up. So, the look of it is pretty similar, but the firm fairways is a big difference. Knowing
both sides of that, is that going to be an easy adjustment for you this week, or perhaps a little tougher because you've played it both ways?
Yeah, it's just something to pay attention to more than anything. It's just something that you have to know going into each hole, kind of how far you want to hit the ball, and that distance is the club that's going to go that distance is pretty variable. One day it might be a 3-wood, and the next day it might be a 4-iron, just because of how firm the fairways get. So it's just something to pay attention to, and something that my caddy and I just got to stay reminded of.
Got one all the way on the right over here.
Yeah.
Just what were the emotions like driving in here, knowing, hey, Thursday, this is real, man. 20 years later, you're playing in the King's Tournament.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, I've always been around this tournament, and caddying in it is still a really cool experience for me, for Sam, and playing in it is just something that I'm just so excited, and I'm so ready to go for Thursday, and it's going to be cool. My mom's going to be here again like she was last week, and my fiance is coming up, so it's kind of a cool thing to have 2 semi-home tournaments back-to-back. Is something that probably doesn't happen too often, so I'm kind of relishing in that.
Any other questions for Eric? We'll take one more up here in the front.
To have your mom there, everybody knows, her story, and you say she's an inspiration. She overcame a lot in her life. How did that inspire you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, she is an incredible woman, and I'm lucky that she's my mom. And it's everyone has some kind of hardship or something that you have to deal with in your life, and the way she dealt with it just kind of proves her character. And I think that's something that's true for anybody. When you have to deal with something that may not be the easiest thing, it's how you handle it. Yeah, I'm just proud of her, I guess.
All right, Eric, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck this week.
Thank you.